So Heidi, welcome to Ball is Wife. This is our podcast. We're so honored to have you. I am going to give a background of our relationship, how we met. When we talk about bonds in the college basketball world, which is a common theme that Andrea and I have talked about through this entire podcast, you are the epitome of a bond that was created early and has kind of lasted through time and will be forever lasting. We just talked about this morning, Andrea. We think we've been in college basketball for a long time, 31 years. Heidi Robic has been a coach's wife.
Oh,
so
Yeah.
What's that, Heidi?
I said, that's why I look this way.
well, if I looked like that after 31 years, I'd be very happy. Let me tell you, talk about plugging holes after 25.
So 31 years. Heidi went to Kansas. So she was, and you can tell this story. I'm just going to give my background. She went to Kansas. She can tell you more about that. She met her husband, Coach John Robic, who was a grad assistant, and they landed at UMass exactly the same time that I was a student at UMass. So that was the first time Heidi and I had met. We weren't really friends because she was a coach's wife at the time. I was a student, but instantly when I did see her in the stands and stuff, I was enamored by her. Like, I was like, wow, that's so cool. She's like a coach's wife. You know, what amazing job that must be and how fun. And she was beautiful and whatever. So I had always admired her from far away. And she had, we talked about this also, her beautiful daughter, Hayley, at the time was about 2 or 3 years old. And I will never forget her with her little UMass cheerleading uniform on. Heidi, right? I mean, blonde hair. I see the pictures of it somewhere. I wish we brought a picture to show. I mean, the cutest little thing ever.
Yes.
And feel free to jump in at any time, but then they worked. So Robes was a coach for Derek at UMass while he was there. And then kind of the timing of it, when Derek graduated, Robes moved on to Youngstown State, first head coaching job, Heidi, right?
Yep.
And hired Derek. Feel free, you can add to that if you want to talk about it, or we can go back to your life in Youngstown. I know I talked on our last podcast about my distaste for Youngstown.
I noticed that. I heard that.
I know. I said Heidi's going to be pissed at me, but I know you had a completely different experience there, right? I mean, tell us about Youngstown.
It's funny because I do actually remember going with you, and maybe I'm remembering wrong. I remember going with you over to DK's first apartment in Youngstown. And I remember walking in and being like, oh, she's not moving here. No. It was scary and dark and gross. Now, Andrea, I loved Youngstown. We lived in a suburb that was predominantly transient people, and it was probably, besides Lexington, our favorite place to live. So dramatically different than the experience Nicole had. But I had kids, and that makes a huge difference.
Huge.
You know, different. And she was young. And I mean, I wouldn't want to have come from New York to Youngstown, Ohio either. So I took one look at that apartment and said, she's not moving here.
Yeah. No. And I feel bad about it. But yeah, it wasn't right for me. And it is true that I went to church. I don't know what church, but I found a church and I used to sit there and go, where am I going? And the big highlight, remember, was, what was the fun bar with all the video games and stuff? Not the Dave and Buster's, but it was
oh no, it was BW3s. It was
BW. Yes. We used to go there all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was it.
So anyway, from Youngstown, you moved on to Memphis.
Yes.
And we were already in Memphis. And that's when, Heidi, you came to Memphis, and that's when we really bonded, right? That was when our friendship became really real and meaningful. And we relied on each other tremendously.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were always just a mentor to me, truly kind of guiding me. I don't know. Heidi, Andrea, unlike us, knows a lot about college basketball. Yes, she understands the game. Her whole family does. In fact, her daughter, Hayley, I want you to talk about that. Hayley, her knowledge of college basketball was ridiculous.
Really?
She knew everything. They would yell at me at the games. They're like, you've been doing this for too long. How do you not know that call yet?
I get that all the time.
Anyway, so we met in Memphis, and there's lots more to talk about. Not met in Memphis, we kind of bonded in Memphis. That's where our friendship became strong. We traveled a lot. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we traveled basketball, and we also started our travel with just girls travel, friendship travel.
Girls trip.
Yeah.
Which we need. And when we interviewed Danielle Sargent, she said that's the one thing she would never give up is her girls trip travel. So that was important. And we built a huge bond. And I felt like it was hard for me when we left Memphis. I think you remember, I really had detachment issues from Heidi when I left. I did. And I was back in Amherst, and I was trying to navigate being a head coach's wife. And I couldn't even count how many times a day you and I spoke, text, constant, every day. You were my rock. You guided me. You helped me, supported me, mentored me, even through us getting fired. You were my solid. Thank God for you. I love you so much.
I love you. I'm with the word mentor though, because Andrea, I'm really not as together as she makes it seem. I wing this also. And even at 57 and late into John's career, I feel like I'm still winging it. She gives me far too much credit, for sure.
I know, but you know what, like in this life, like I said, in this, life of a coach's wife, it's like, it's a fast moving pace job, and people come and go, you come and go, like, and if you could have that one person, because I mean there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of whatever that goes with it, and there's a lot of yuckiness. That's the part that I have a hard time with. This is why I'm always crying during this. It's like I'm not competitive. I don't like that part of it. So and you lose friendships over it, because it's like you have nothing to do with it, but the job takes you somewhere. Maybe they left, and just a lot. So if you could come out with one person.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. How many times have we said that, Nicole? And you know what? I always said to Nicole and to anybody who knows me well, it was my goal to not have my closest friends be basketball people.
Yeah.
I didn't want to rely on basketball friends, because it is so transient, and it is so cutthroat, and it is oftentimes every man for himself, just because it's, it's so competitive. And so I did not seek out basketball friends. Nicole and I were something completely on another level. Yes, we met through basketball, but it was instantaneously, we knew that we were friends outside of basketball. And I love a lot of the women that I met over the years and still keep in touch with. But kind of like what you said, Andrea, I had to detach myself from that. That couldn't be the end all and be all for me.
Yeah.
And it's easier to do when you have kids and you're caught up in their things, and their friends become your friends and everything. But it's still difficult, because you're spending half of the year with these people.
Well, that's it. And you're so vulnerable during the season. I mean,
100%.
You live and die with every game,
with every win.
Yeah. And then, you feel some sort of way when you don't. And then, the people that you're in your program, you're the closest to, you see them. And, we're lucky enough to see these people during games, during, events at you're around them a lot more than you probably would be your like close friends, your
Yeah.
other friends. And it's like and what you see is what you get with my personality. It's like, I will tell you everything, like how, like
Mhm.
whatever's going on in my life. And then sometimes those, friendships, you literally are like best of friends. You tell every second of the day, they know what you're doing. And then when you leave and you don't talk to them anymore, it's like what, like really?
Yeah.
Like,
You feel a
Mhm.
loss for
you
sure.
feel a
Yeah.
loss. And it's just
I,
like, why?
when I went to UMass, like I said, I mean, I definitely, full transparency. I was like, where's my Heidi every day? I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. I felt like a little kid, like trying to, she was always, you were always there kind of just helping. Like, well, what would Heidi do? What would Heidi do? I would call Heidi. Heidi, how do I deal with this? And you were just,
You know what I think too? I think, and I've said this to Nicole for years, it's a sixth sense. It really is.
Yes.
Some people have it, some people don't have it.
Right. Right.
Some people never have it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's all about keeping it in perspective, and you just have a lot of it is just a sixth sense about it.
Yeah.
It's
And you always had great perspective on it. So let's talk about Kentucky. And
Okay.
I'm not trying to move along. We can talk as long as we like. But so you went from Memphis. We obviously shared a lot of success there. We shared the Final Four, which was unbelievable. We have funny stories about that. I was pregnant out to here at the Final Four. Maybe we should tell that story at some point. There's people sitting in our seats.
Right.
I remember. But then you ended up at Kentucky, which is, in my opinion, it's, the creme de la creme of college basketball. Like, you are at the top.
Mhm.
Tell us about your experience at Kentucky, like being coach's
Well,
wife.
I think me, and it's probably a unique perspective opposed to other people who've been at Kentucky. I went to Kansas, and Kansas is on the same level as Kentucky. Kansas is that team, and Kansas, Duke, Carolina, Kentucky. So when I came to Kentucky, I was not like, oh my God, this is Kentucky, because I was used to Kansas, and that's how we are there too. What I will say is, the Kentucky fans, they are exactly how people say they are. They are rabid, and they are rabid 12 months out of the year. We moved here in July, and I remember going into a drugstore before I got to the house, and it was a sea of blue in July. I asked the manager for something. They immediately they saw my credit card. They immediately got on the speaker phone, comes up, are you Coach Robic's wife? Can we have an autograph? And I mean, I literally just rolled in from Memphis in my pajama top, a ball hat. I probably didn't have a bra on, and crying because I didn't want to move.
Sounds
And I mean,
like
these
us.
people are crazy. They love their basketball. I would say Kansas is a little more low key than that, but it's been our last stop, and it's lovely. It's Kentucky is lovely. It's pressure like no other. But as we'll talk about when we get into what we went through with Hayley, it really Kentucky didn't become so special to me until we went through that with Hayley. It was just another program. I'd been in the big time, we'd experienced big time at UMass and Memphis both, but I mean, I'd been at Kansas. I'm from Kansas. The grandeur of it all did not faze me at all.
And just for Kentucky fans, any fan listening, UMass fan, UConn fan, LAU fan, how many Final Fours have you attended on staff I mean, you've been to a lot of Final Fours
at Kentucky.
and
Or-
UMass and
Oh
Memphis,
gosh,
right?
countless. I have no idea.
Really?
I have no idea. I can tell you that I do think that there's a stat out there that John Robic may have the most Final Four rings of any assistant with
Wow.
the amount of schools. So Kansas, and we had a national championship ring with Kansas, obviously a national championship ring with Kentucky, Final Four rings with countless
UMass.
Final Four rings with Memphis,
Yeah.
with UMass. Yeah, it's some weird little statistic that, when he's trying to be big time, he throws out.
Can I ask
That
you a
means
silly
absolutely
question?
nothing to the rest of us,
Yeah.
Right.
But,
All right, can I ask you a silly question?
sure.
You've been to so many Final Fours. How do you pack for all that? Like,
She's good.
I pack a lot of shit when we go to like our conference tournament, and
Mhm.
like to the point where I need like a bellhop, and there's times that we've only lasted 12 hours and all my shit had to go wheeled
Mhm.
back down to my car. So I don't like to bring a lot. How do you do, like, how do you know, like, I know you could, like, there's like breaks in between, but how much do you pack? That's what I'm concerned about.
You know what? Nicole will know this is, and this is a little funny thing about me, is I don't wear my school's colors. I don't wear Kentucky blue. I don't wear that stuff to games. I don't have Kentucky shirts until postseason. Postseason's the only time that I will ever dress for my school.
Really?
So honestly, I feel like it's part of, what, Andrea, it's part of me not wanting to be defined by college basketball. I have a life outside of college basketball. I want my children to have a life outside of college basketball. This is just what their dad does. And it's normal to them, but it's not a normal life. You both know that.
Yeah, nice
So-
try. Nice try.
So I
Nice
never-
try, Heidi.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
right.
man.
I never dress the part. I don't.
That's
Until,
smart.
until postseason. And then, you know what? I go out and buy 5 or 6 t-shirts and jeans and tennis shoes, and that's what you get.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who has the roller bags are my daughters, because,
Yeah,
they
I'm sure
they want the outfits and everything. I'm dressing Walmart, and they are dressed from head to toe in every color representing their school. So I don't ever remember that really being a thing. But
No.
when you get to the point where you're late in postseason and you're literally, you've only got 2 or 3 days in between. Yeah, then it gets a little tricky, and I just pack whatever I pack, and I'm,
And you're
Sorry.
always dressed beautifully, and yeah.
it is a
That's
funny
cute.
thing about me. I don't wear, I don't wear.
I tried at UMass a couple of times. I got cute little UMass t-shirts, and every time I wore it, no matter if we had a good team, bad team, in between team, we'd lose the freaking game. So I'm like my superstition.
And then you toss that t-shirt.
Absolutely.
You sleep in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very superstitious. We are, Nicole and I are both very superstitious. I don't know. Well, we have to be because our husbands were. I don't know if that plays in your life, Andrea, but
It does.
if
Yes.
you lose in
Heidi.
something, you don't wear it again.
He is. I was going to ask, we played UConn last night.
Yes,
think
he had his
you
shark
know-
underwear on.
He did. And did he not eat the light blue and white M&Ms? I was going to ask
He
him.
probably didn't, or the yellow ones. No, it's so funny because the shark underwear, as soon as I laid them out and I looked at them and I was like, holy shit. I'm like, they have sharks on them. And then he had that thing on his neck that he had to go he has like a medical thing that he had like assisted. So he was like dealing with that. And before I left, I'm mopping the floor. And I'm saying to myself, do I say you have shark underwear? Like, do I mention it? Like, or do I not mention it? Like, will he put it together? He only brought the sharks. So he did. He wore them, but
It must be coaching wide then.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Heidi, I think we need to share the story about the Final Four and the seat change.
Okay, well,
Go right
Andrea,
ahead.
we lost the Final Four to no less to my alma mater at Kansas when we were at Memphis.
Oh.
And the way I remember it, Nicole and I got the wrong seats. We sat together. We got the wrong seats. We got the seats that belong to staff members farther down the totem pole. And of course, I mean, it's the Final Four. I mean, we're like, come on, we've paid the price all year. We want our good seats. So then, and we win that game. The next game is the national championship game. And we kind of put our foot down and said, what's the deal? We want our seats. So they switched us. And Nicole and I are now back in our seats that we were supposed to have. We lost the game. We lost the national championship game. So for, I don't know, how many years has it been, Nicole? 15 years now? For 15 years, you want to know who they blame?
You.
Who they blame?
Us.
No, and I am dead serious. They blame
We
us.
lost that game. We changed our seats. We're sorry, Memphis. Heidi and I, we lost the game for you guys. We did.
And don't even think that not everybody on that staff believes it, because they do.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah. It wasn't a free throw. It wasn't Derek Rose. It was Nicole and Heidi.
He didn't do anything wrong, Derek. You did everything right. It was all because the funniest thing was, I don't know, Andrea, you probably have no clue about this game, but it was the highlight of my husband's career for sure. We won the game and then we lost the game, right? Like that weird ending that happened. It was like we were up
9 with 2 minutes left. Yeah. And then we end up losing it in overtime. Yes, it was catastrophic.
Catastrophic losses in college basketball, probably.
Yes. So we're the mushies.
Yeah, you're the mushies. Yeah, you are the mushies. I agree.
Remember, we talked about the mushes.
Yeah,
we have mushes. We all have mushes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we want to talk about? Any fun stories, Heidi, that we want to share from our travels? And I mean, we have so many. I can't think of them.
I know we have 31 years of them. I know. Gosh, I don't know.
Oh man. Well, moving along. Obviously, one of the reasons I wanted you to be on this podcast is because I want to talk about Hayley. And Andrea and I talk about the real lives of coaches' wives, and that we go through very real things in our lives. And we're not just these, figureheads and here to be yelled at and screamed at by fans and all that. Like, we're going through real things. And you went through one of the most tragic things a mom could go through. And, Hayley, this is really dear to my heart because I knew Hayley. She was like my daughter. I was very, very close with her. And I want to honor her. I want to talk about her if you wish. Like, I want you to tell her story. She's amazing. Her knowledge of basketball, her work ethic. I want to hear about her job. I mean, there's so much to talk about. If you don't mind sharing some stories.
Sure. Yeah, Hayley was our firstborn, and John, we joke because I'm a very good athlete. I had a chance to be a D1 volleyball player. John was All-American D2. And so we just assumed that we would have these amazing athletes of children. And Hayley came along. She was our first, and she was awful. She was terrible. She didn't even know how to run, and it was terrible. And it was such a disappointment. But what she did have was an incredible mind. She was very smart, and an incredible mind, not only about basketball, but all sports. And we used to joke that, Hayley could recruit for Kentucky. She was a lot like John, and she was very good at assessing talent quickly. And just, I don't know, she just had it for some reason. So she went to the University of Kentucky and graduated from the business school and went on to work at our thoroughbred park here in marketing, Keeneland, and ended up really loving the racing industry and everything. And the long and the short of it is she ended up leaving Lexington for a boy she met, went to Houston, and landed her dream job at a company called Professional Sports Partners in Houston. They have the Astros, they have Simone Biles, they have Altuve. I mean, it's a sports marketing firm that is global. And she landed that job. It was her dream job. They were amazing to her. She and her fiance got engaged. She was his first girlfriend. He was the first person that she ever dated that made her a nice person. She relaxed. She wasn't type A. She wasn't trying to outdo somebody. She wasn't looking for faults. It was just a lovely, lovely relationship. They incidentally were born on the same day, same year, and just kind of found each other. And she was living her best life in Houston and loved her job, living her best life, great friends. They moved to El Paso for his job. And they are probably only there, Nicole, would you say 2 or 3 months?
Yeah.
And she started experiencing stomach pains that got worse and worse. And Hayley was always Andrea, I don't know if you looked up and saw pictures of her and stuff, and you would know that she's very thin. She's always been thin. At one point, I used to look like that. I was that thin. So it was not a concern so much for me, it was not a concern. I kept saying to her, you need to, she was a vegetarian. I'm like, you need to add meat back in, but the weight was not a concern. But she started having stomach pains. That was early September. And remember, they were in El Paso, so not the hotbed of medical, hospitals and whatnot, but went in, and that was early September. By April, we had lost her to advanced liver cancer. And it was a liver cancer that's called HCC. And it's the type of cancer that they kept telling us when they saw the mass. It's not malignant. There's no way it's malignant. 27-year-olds don't get liver cancer, but we do need to take it out and this and that. So we never, ever thought. And this HCC cancer is a type that 70-year-old people get. It's if you've had hepatitis, it's if you're alcoholic, it's that kind of thing. So it was just unfathomable. It ended up being that. She was the 0.001% of people, of adolescents, young adults that get this. And, in between October and February, we moved mountains for her. Initially, we brought her back to Kentucky after she had had a resection in El Paso, and we were looking at transplant. And from our connections through basketball, mostly, we were able to get her into the best hospital in the country for liver transplant. Her sister was a match, so we were looking forward to a transplant, and she had one last scan to clear her, and they found it in her lungs. So transplant was off the table, which was devastating. But incidentally, that's where my love affair with Kentucky fan base came in. When, back when we thought transplant was an option, we put it on social media because she was going to need a donor. Obviously, her sisters would be the first ones tested. No question. John and I were too old. With liver, the age is particularly important. So anybody over 50 was too old. So, but we appealed to the public, and I remember getting a phone call from the transplant coordinator at UPMC. And she said, we need you to take it down. We need you to take it off social media, because in my 35 years of being a transplant coordinator here, we have never had so many people sign up to be a donor. They had over 1,000 people within a week and a half.
Wow.
Sign up to be a donor for her. And it was, of course, it was family, it was friends, but it was so many strangers. Kentucky fans, people we don't know, Eastern Kentucky fans. I mean, it was unbelievable. And, there were those couple people that were like, why are they asking for people to give their liver if they're not going to? Things get misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the end, her sister was a match, and we didn't get to it in time, and that's the thing about liver cancer. If you do get it, it's like a lot of cancers. It's before you realize you have it, it's too far gone. And that's how Hayley was. And she ended up passing away like 6 months, 8 months after the day of diagnosis. And it was, I mean, I don't even think, you're both mothers, I don't even think I have to tell you what it was like. But I think what I wanted to make clear on this podcast is the support that we got through basketball was humbling, very, very, very humbling. And I think that, John has tried to live his life, and certainly we have tried to live our life and teach our children that, above all else, being a good person and being respectful, and it paid off for us because people really, really went out and showed up when we needed them. Strangers from all over the country, all over the world. It was amazing. It really was amazing.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
When I asked you to be on the podcast, you said, I'll only do it if you don't cry. And I said, I will not cry. I will not cry. I mean, how brave, Hayley. I mean, I love, she's, again, this is so, I'm so much a part of this story. I lived it with you while it was going on, but thank you, Heidi. So brave of you to want to talk about this. And the point is, this world, and I know Andrea has been personally affected by cancer with her dad, correct? Am I saying that right, Andrea? We're all touched by this in some way. And amazing that we do have this support system within our profession. And doesn't it just feel different, the support you get when you're in this kind of profession? I don't know. I just feel like refs rally, coaches rally,
Yeah.
rally. I
mean, and it came from places, the most unexpected places. I will tell you, there were some disappointments. There were some people we were disappointed in that we believed in that didn't show up for us. But then on the flip side, from referees, Dick Vitale, Reese Davis, Jay Billis, coaches, John was getting inundated with text messages when the news that Hayley needed a liver transplant. And then of course, when the news broke that she died, he did not go back to work for a while. And when he finally did, he said he started every game crying because the refs, countless, every single one of them would come up and spend 10 minutes with him before the game and just sit with him on the bench, or, tell their story, or just say, we've been praying for you, or it again, humbling. I hate to say a blessing, because none of this was a blessing, but times like these really define you, and it really gives you pause as to who you can value and who you can lean on and what's important. And at the end of the day, in a really shockingly brutal way, we realized that people we didn't even know in this profession were really there for us the whole time. And people who weren't, well, you know what? It's just a job. It's just a profession.
Right. That's it.
Times like these do define you. And I never thought I would be one of those people. It's always cliche to me. And we just lived that out. And but we really did the entire Kentucky fan base that went and got tested or reached out to us or sent us things, letters that from people we don't even know. The presidents of our university, both past and present, were so good to John. The sportscasters, the refs, other coaches. It was pretty amazing. It was pretty. And 2 years later, almost 2 years later, we still have not reached out and properly acknowledged the thousands of people that rallied for her.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you're just like speechless that anybody would have to go through this, you know?
Well, you know,
Yes, yeah, it's been rough. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But you know what? And like I said, it's taken us a while, but it does give you perspective. And I've said to Nicole, you know, we're at the age where we're ending sort of our, when I say we, John and I, our coaching career, but I look at like you, Andrea, and of course, Nicole, and it's easy for me to say, keep it in perspective and understand it's just a job, and understand that there are more things in life.
Yeah.
But there really are.
Yeah.
And I always sort of knew that. It was always my goal to separate my children and our life from basketball.
Yeah.
But when something like this happens, and even, you know, even a death of a parent, it doesn't have to be a child. Boy, it really puts things in perspective. And
I do remember you always saying,
I wish that at a younger age, I had realized that. And I look at the two of you and just, I know, you know, it's like we said at the beginning of the show, Andrea, every win, you're hanging on every win. You're hanging on every loss. People don't understand. Yes, it's a game to them, but to us, it's our livelihood. And it's all, you know, it's how others define us. It's how our children define their parents and themselves. But if I could have anything come from this, it would be for you, Nicole, and for, you know, people to understand that it is not the end all and be all.
no,
It is not.
no, it absolutely is not. And I think that is you know, definitely the theme of this podcast, the inspiration. You know, we're repeating ourselves over and over again, but this is exactly why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, first of all, I want to honor Hayley. She meant a lot to me. Her life needs to be celebrated and honored. And she meant a lot to college basketball. I mean, she could have, like you said, she could have been a coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I relied on her to tell me what the fuck was going on here. So yeah, like we're living these real lives, and not to take away from our blessings within the profession. And you always taught that to me too. I remember the first time we went to Hawaii on the team plane. You know, we went charter. I didn't even know what a charter was. What's a charter? Oh my God, a charter is when we take our own plane. This is so cool. They give us food. Oh my God, you know, like, and I remember you saying, Nicole, this is a privilege, sister. Like, this is not everybody gets to do this. So you be grateful. And you know, and you're like, you thank the coaches. And, you know, I do think some of the younger coaches in this profession might think that's like, you know, they're entitled to those type of things. And you didn't raise me that way in college basketball. These are earned privileges that you get. And there is kind of like a hierarchy, like you put in your time, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I felt like we always put in our time. I mean, we weren't good immediately, you know, I mean, we put in our time and yeah, kind of thankful for the good times while they last. You and I talked about that for years. You know, you've got to celebrate the good times while they last, because they will switch up on you so fast.
Right.
And it's, you know, you got to store it up.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
And they're coming. Like your good times are coming, and not so good times, they're coming, like it's inevitable,
Mhm.
but like to have a
100%.
program, like having to be part of a program. There was another article that I read about somebody else who might be coming on, about calling a program your family. And there's sometimes when you don't feel like they're your family, because you just, they could be ruthless, and you're like, how could be part of this family? It's just like fans and the everything, like the school, whatever it may be. If they're fair, everything's fair weathered in this job, and it's like, but
100%.
and then on top of it, you get resentful because when, God forbid, something like that happened, it's like, it's so hard for them to break away. I mean, most of us can't have kids, like can't even birth children without having agita, like whether, we have two
Right.
on staff right now that are literally like, this one poor girl is, saying, can you please stay home from the West Virginia game just in case I have to go in, and, because he can't be, and I'm just saying to myself, like, you can't even have a kid nowadays because it's like this job is so grueling that you have to be there, let alone to have, God forbid, like an illness that you feel so torn. Like, how do you leave? How do you keep your mind in both places? And you know what? It's most important is your own family. And now this is just a job. Like when you remove yourself, you fly above it. It's just a job. And you know what? Like,
And look,
sorry.
it's a great job at times.
Wonderful, amazing.
It's a lot. We've had a lot of fun times, but I've always said to people who don't know anything about this profession, it does not ever come without a price.
No.
You are going to pay a price.
Yeah.
Whether it's your children, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your husband's sanity, your husband's worth. There are prices to be paid for this. So, and that's kind of, coming full circle. So when you have a crisis, yes, I agree, Andrea, and I don't want to be the downer here, but yeah, these programs talk about family and this and that. That's not true, because at the end of the day, it really, you don't have to be family to be good to each other, to be loyal, to be respectful. But at the end of the day, it didn't feel like family to me, given what we went through.
Right.
So I just think that keeping it in perspective is difficult at best, because everything hinges on it, but it's just a job.
It's just a job.
Yeah. It's just basketball.
It's just basketball.
Really?
It really is.
And I used to hate when people said that, because I was like, no, it's not just that to us.
Right. Yeah.
It's not. It's a paycheck. It's how you're going to put your kids through school. It's all these things.
It's a lifestyle. I mean, we embarked on a lifestyle that all three of us can 100% relate to, but somebody that's not in this profession cannot relate to the lifestyle that we live.
No.
Like last night we played UConn, who's amazing, and like it was a bye game. It was an expected result, but I had a few friends go, "Is Derek okay?" I'm like,
I hate that.
I know, and I'm like, he's okay. Yes, of course he wanted to win the game, but we know I'm not saying he didn't want to win the game, it's like navigating those kinds of questions. We've all done.
We just go over that really quickly too. It's like, this is the perfect podcast to do it on. It's like, please don't call us after a loss and ask if we're okay, where our husbands are where they're at, because they have, they might be there. Exactly how they feel. They're pissed. They're fine. Like, don't ask us how our husband, it's not that serious. Don't ask me how he is after. Ask me how he is after a doctor's appointment, everything else. Please don't call and say, how's Danny? Like, don't do it. Like, know how he is. It's so ignorant to me. And I see red when I have to answer questions, because it's like, really, like, I want to say, like, really, like, is that a question you ask after a loss? Like,
well, don't you find, Andrea and Nicole, I know you do, because you and I talked about this after you guys left UMass. You find yourself trying to comfort fans, other people whose
Yes.
livelihood
Yes.
doesn't depend
Oh
on
my
Danny's
God.
win or Derek's win
Oh
or
my God.
Kentucky's win. They're so broken up that you find yourself trying to comfort them when it's like,
even Danny and Derek and John probably, like Derek has said that before. Like sometimes I got to go in and I got to, and this isn't at LIU, but maybe at UMass, like he's got to lift his staff up the next day after less. He's like,
well, but Nicole, you were
see 'em.
saying like your friends from college would, they're in mourning too because UMass didn't win. It's like
that was a
people,
lot of pressure. Yeah, that was. If I could give any advice to any wife or spouse that listens to this podcast, and we hope there's thousands, don't go back to your alma mater. Whatever you do, don't go back. It was the best of the best and the worst of the worst. There's no in between. You can't please everybody, and all you want to do is please everybody. Every friend Derek and I have is from UMass. His family the whole story, both of you. It was a lot of pressure.
Well, something like that's only going to go one of two ways.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can never go home.
No. And then when we got fired, it was the funny joke. Everyone's like, so where are you guys going to go? And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, are you going to go home? We're like, we are home.
Right.
We're already home.
Right.
This is where
which makes it even harder.
Yeah, exactly. Derek's like, are we supposed to move to Florida now? Like, I don't know.
Where do we go? Right.
Yes.
Right.
But we can laugh about it now because, every coach goes through it at some point in their career.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. So, any more fun stuff we should talk about? You told me something today that I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
You told me something today that I never knew about, John, that he played for Bob Huggins.
Yes.
I thought that was like really interesting.
He played for Bob Huggins at Walsh College. That was Bob Huggins' first job. So played for Bob Huggins for 2 years at Walsh College and then transferred to Denison. And again, Bob Huggins, another one that was amazing to John when he needed him to be, both professionally and, personally.
That's great.
Connections, one of John's dearest friends is Greg Popovich at the San Antonio Spurs. Again, amazing. Exactly when John needed to hear from him, he heard from him. He's had a good career. He's got a lot of connections and again, did it the right way, I believe. Was a good person, was loyal, was honest. And when we needed it to pay off for us, it did.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important lesson that, you treat your people well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've had a lot of neat stops, he's had a great career and we've had a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. You wanted to ask Andrea something? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Andrea, I'm just curious, given that you married into such a historic basketball family, what are the dynamics like that? Are you on 24/7, or do you have a whole section of the family that doesn't really get into basketball, so they're like chill over it, or is it just all the time?
No, like I mean, I think it's worked for us. We're going on 25 years. We'll be married 25 years in August, is the fact that I am not a sports fan. And I'm proud to not be it. Because if I was, I think that I don't think we would have lasted, because it's just we both two of us can't do it, so
right.
And as far as I think my father-in-law might get a little irritated by me not knowing what's going on. I don't, but I think after 25 years, he understands, he gets it,
Mhm.
But my family, like I have a brother, and we're a very small family. I have a brother, he has a wife and 2 kids, and I have my mom. Like, that's it on my side, so they come, my brother's into it, my brother's family, my mom is into it, but she still doesn't get it. Like, my brother calls me, like, she still doesn't get, she'll ask questions, she has no idea what the conference tournament, like, it's great, it's so
Right.
nice not to have that pressure of, them always, just down, breathing down my throat. And my in-laws are great. Like, they come to the games, and they know, like, they asked me today about a recruit. I didn't mean to jump down their throat, but I said, stop asking me questions I don't have answers to. Like, they asked me the name. We see a guard. I said, I don't even know who's a guard on our team, let alone who's a guard who's not even
Right.
here yet. So as
Right.
far as that, like, I think everybody is, they took me in as, almost like she knows, and I
Right.
keep it like that, and it works for us. But other than that, like, no, it's just the support. Danny has a sister, like, they're always, with her family is always, rooting for us, and it's just great to have family support, but it's not overloaded. It's not like overbearing.
Right.
And they know, they've been in it so long, they know when to
Yeah. Yes. And that's true. That might be the difference too. They've been in it for so long at
Right.
different levels.
Exactly.
For me, I remember in all the places that we've been, I would meet people and instantly like this woman or whoever, and they invariably would be like, I'm sorry, I don't follow basketball. I don't know basketball. And I was always like, that's why I like you so much.
Yes.
That's why we click.
Yeah.
It's because you
Yeah.
have no idea,
Yeah.
nor do you care.
Yes.
And you need a little bit of that in your life.
That's I feel like that needs to be a topic. I want to have like the non-basketball friend, Andrea.
Yes.
I think we should do
That's
that.
a great
The one
idea.
friend that is completely clueless, and they're
The
like,
one that calls me
what do
during
our
the
guys
game,
do when they're not
the
coaching?
woman that
What
calls
job
you
do they
during
have?
the game.
like 10 times, and they're like, where are you? Pick up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm at the gate. Like,
The friend that invites your family on vacation in January.
yeah.
Yes.
No, we can't do
We
that.
don't do that.
Maybe in like May we can go.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Well, my brother had the nerve to get married years back on December 20th. And I'm like, do you not love me? Like, do you, like, really?
Right.
Well, let's talk about how the non-basketball friend becomes the crazed lunatic fan friend because she becomes friends with you and you bring her to one game, or he to a game, and then all of
I
a
don't
sudden
have any of those.
hook, line, and sinker. That's
Yeah.
happened before too.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No.
I've had that.
Well, but
If
see,
they do
and
that, we're
I
not
didn't
friends.
do much of that because when I was into it, I am one of those people that just sit in silence. And I don't really root. Well, that's not true. I guess. I don't know.
No, you weren't a yeller or cheerer or anything like that.
No.
You were always
no.
very nervous, like very
Yes, but
you would get-
nervous in a very quiet way. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't ask me a question.
yeah.
Right. That's me.
It's a yes. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I actually have friends that were, like I said last podcast, when you move to a place, and I'm sure like it's so different because like I'm here in Connecticut, and it's like Rhode Island is my place. It's like, that's where I have so many more friends just because my kids were young when we moved there. I had sports friends, school friends, URI friends. It's like, we have a whole bunch of people, and here my kids were so old. So when I got here, you're like looking around, and the girl who does my nails came to my game the other day. And my father-in-law said, is this a Seinfeld episode? I'm like, I don't have that many friends here. I have to thank God Rhode Island is so close. And my Rhode Island friends are coming here, so
that is funny.
so amazing. I love it. So, it's just,
Andrea, you're right. And that is an interesting dynamic, is those late moves, those late jobs when your kids are older. We came to Kentucky and my kids were in high school and college at that point. And it was so much harder on me.
yes,
because how do
Yeah,
you
you
meet
had a hard
people?
time making friends.
Yeah,
That's why we started this podcast. We're like, we need, we need this.
right. It's so true. It's different in the later years with the kids.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I could be
Well,
a farmer if I wanted to. I'm in the middle of like cow country. I could actually volunteer at a farm, do something like that in my spare time.
It's so funny you say that, because John and I were watching the game and I was like, oh, are they playing in stores? And he said yes. And he said, that's rule. They're out there.
let me,
He likened it to Amherst.
but
Look
it's
at your milk carton. Your milk carton says, like, I guarantee your milk came from like somewhere in Connecticut. I promise
Oh,
you.
that's charming.
have you been to Yukon yet recently, Heidi, though? It's a really, it was
No.
dark when we arrived yesterday, but it's a really nice campus.
I've never actually been to stores because, Nicole, if you remember when we were playing UConn, they both were, at a pinnacle. And so it was always at a neutral site in Hartford.
Yeah.
So I actually have never even seen Stores, Connecticut.
Well, if there's any Yukon fans listening, you guys were very nice to me. You let me park in a nice, convenient parking spot. Thank you, Andrea. Everybody treated us very
I got stopped though. Wait, but then I was late because my baby was sleeping and I pulled in. They're like, sorry, can't park here. I was like, so I was so pissed. I'm like, so no. And then I went in and then Nicole's like, oh, your parking guy let me.
I was like, oh
You
shit,
probably
I probably
you
parked
took
in
her spot.
I did. I was like, I
That's what she
probably
said.
parked in your spot. Oh my
Right.
God. Listen, at UMass, I would pull up to park in the back and they'd be like, who are you? I'm like, I'm Coach Kellett's wife. They're like,
Then they check the list. They're like, nope.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
but
And I used to do the same thing with, 12 feet of snow with 3 kids dangling from my armpits, screaming and crying. Yeah, that's a mess. That's a mess.
wow.
Oh gosh.
Well, Heidi, we've been on for an hour. We could talk forever. Thank you so much for being on Bold
Absolutely.
Thank you
podcast.
so much.
I appreciate it.
I would,
appreciate
I think Andrea and I would love to follow up and, continue to help share Hayley's story and celebrate her life. And maybe we could collaborate and do something for the Liver Foundation or, something of your choice. We can try to do a fundraiser or whatever.
Oh, that would be absolutely lovely. It would mean a lot to us. Thank you.
That was great. I love you so much.
I love you too. This
you.
was so fun.
Yes.
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me on. Andrea, good to meet you finally.
Good to meet you.